Welcome to the Startup Grind.
So I just want to say welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to the second edition of Startup Grind Albany. We are so excited to have you all here tonight. And my name is Patrice Perkins. And the reason I got involved with Startup Grind, let me tell you a little bit about Startup Grind. It's an 85-city community. It's a global community. And we are here to help entrepreneurs. We are in 85 cities. We're in 30 countries. And we're basically designed to inspire, to connect, and to engage entrepreneurs. And so I am really excited and honored to have with us tonight our guest, Amy Friedman from BroadBlast. So I just want to invite you all to give a big Albany Startup Grind welcome to Amy Friedman as she comes to join us. So I'm just so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you for
just
having
thrilled,
me.
glad that you were available and able to come. And you have such an exciting story. A mutual friend, Beth Coco, introduced us and told me that you had a great story. And the more I read about you, the more research, I discovered that was really true. So I'm excited that we'll be able to kind of just share with our community, our local community, and our global community, some of what you're doing. I guess the first thing I would ask you is just tell us a little bit about BroadBlast, just briefly, and then as we go through, I'll let you talk a little bit more about it, but BroadBlast.
BroadBlast, what we do is we do mass notifications. So we send messages out and get information back via voice and text. So we're using any kind of device to reach people where they're at any time and get information back. And we have reports that come back in real time. So there's accountability. Originally, people started using us for business continuity, disaster recovery. And then we kind of branched off when they saw what power of the system was and what they could do with it. They actually started using it in IT alerting, automated staffing, anything where they have to push information out to employees or to stakeholders and get information back.
What are some of the, I know that you are local and you're also national.
Yeah.
What are some of the types of organizations that you work with?
Well, we started off originally in higher education, and that was 100% of our business. And then it's kind of changed over. We have three sectors: education, higher education, corporate, and government. So right now, I would say probably a good portion of our business is in corporate, and the second biggest nut for us is the government, and then it's higher education, which we're kind of phasing out of.
Okay.
So
I would like to ask you, I was interested in how people kind of got started. And you have a great, we were chatting about, I'll start with your childhood. We'll move up from, was there a time in your childhood when you thought, yeah, I think I want to own my own business? Or when was it that you decided that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
well, that's a good question. First, in terms of childhood, you brought that up. I come from a family where my dad was an entrepreneur. So that was something that was just natural, and I lived that. When I was 13, I started a boat cleaning business. So I didn't realize I was an entrepreneur, but I started a boat cleaning business and kind of took off running with that. So I had these different experiences that I never put the word entrepreneur on, but it was really entrepreneurial stuff that I was doing. Then I went out into the world and had a few jobs. And every job that I was in, it was I was very autonomous, so I could do what I wanted to do. And because of my work ethic and just what I enjoyed doing, it was like a natural fit. So when an opportunity, probably by my second or my third job, and I realized I was building somebody else's business, kind of like the light went on, and I said, I'm working so hard, why not work hard and be an entrepreneur myself and really do what I want to do.
Now, you had an experience of being obviously an employee, and then now, of course, you are the owner and you are running BroadBlast. And I ask the question sometimes, the difference between an entrepreneur and employee. What would you say?
An employee sleeps at night. To me, the biggest difference, and because of the positions I've always had, I was never a 9-to-5 worker. I was always in first and out last. So that's a work ethic, and I don't think that changes whether you're an employee or an employer. But I think the biggest thing is when you become an entrepreneur and you realize that the people that you're working with or the employees that you have, you're not only taking on an employee, you're taking on their whole family. And there's an added level of responsibility there. Somebody had said to me, one of my mentors said to me once, everybody's problem becomes my problem. And that is probably the best piece of advice I ever got in terms of understanding employees, because if something's going on for an employee, they bring it into the workplace. So I think for me, the difference between being an entrepreneur versus being an employee, it's huge. I mean, you lay up at night and you think about the thing, there's huge responsibility in that. Not that there isn't when you're an employee, but you multiply the mouths you feed it.
So it just really comes from the perspective. I love what you say. It's almost identical to what our guest last month, Ed Mitson, said, is that you are taking on not just an employee, but when you're the boss, you are taking on that employee's family. And what's working during their family is if they're not doing well, if there's something that's going on, it absolutely is going to affect their output, their contribution. So, talking about employees as a business owner, talk a little bit about building a team. I know that often being an entrepreneur is kind of a lonely start. I won't say lonely, but it's solitary because it's kind of your baby, and maybe at some point you have co-founders with you, but then at some point you start to build a team. Talk about that process.
Well, I think it's interesting when you own a company. Even when you build a team, it's still very lonely at the top because people are depending on you in terms of the whole vision for going forward. So I think that I lost my train of thought there because I went off on another tangent.
Yeah, no, that was tangent. That was perfect. So it sounds as if like you say, it's lonely at the top, but you still have to kind of work there. You need to collaborate.
Right. And I think what happens is as you're working at the top and you've got this vision and you start bringing people into your team, you have to make sure, number one, that their values are the same as yours. These are people that you're going to be doing this similar things day after day, and you're working together, and you've got to be all pulling together toward a common goal. So I think as an entrepreneur, you have to have a vision, and then when you're pulling people onto your team, you've got to pull the right people onto your team that have your vision. Everybody's going to do different things, usually. As a small startup, that's what happens. But as long as you're working toward a common goal, that's how you pull your team together.
You talk about values, and I found that was one of the things that really made me want to be a part of the Startup Grind family, because Derek Anderson, our founder, his values are, to give and not take, but to really help the other business owner without that expectation of getting it back. And so I found that the different team members on the Startup Grind team globally, the folks that I went to the annual conference a few weeks ago and had an opportunity to meet people that were directors from all over the world, and that is what I kept hearing is it's the values. And it starts at the top and it trickles down. And I can see how it would, if you had some folks that were not the same value based, that it could cause some conflicts because you're almost be working at cross purposes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me something that surprised you about being a business owner that you just didn't expect.
Oh, there was a lot of surprises. I think for me, the biggest thing was, you get into a business and you have a product or a service, and you say, okay, this is a great fit, and I'm going to market this, and I'm going to help people. I love helping people, and that's what drew me into this market. But I didn't realize all the other things that go along with it. I didn't realize, well, you've got to do the books, you've got to write the check, you've got to sign it. There's so many other functions that you need to do. And as a startup, it's just not going and meeting with clients and bringing in clients. It's like 10 other things that you have to do. And I think that for me, that was a big challenge to say, oh my gosh, how do I do all this and learn new skills? Because there were skills that I didn't have walking into it, that to be successful, you got to learn those skills. So you're going and you're learning as you're going. So I think that was, for me, that was very challenging.
So kind of learning on the job.
Yeah.
As an employee, you kind of show up and the framework is already there.
Correct.
But as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, then you really are building that framework yourself.
You're creating it. You're creating it because if you're going down one path, and then you have to always consider the other options, and sometimes you're going to take some of those options and go on those crossroads, and there's risk involved in that. And you have to think of how the risk is going to affect the company, how it's going to affect the employees, and what paths to take, because there's not a shortage of good ideas out there. It's how do you want to focus?
You're talking about risk, and that makes me think about something I read is that, you know, the learning or the successes come not on those mountaintop experiences, but it's really those obstacles that you overcome. Is there anything that sticks in your mind as a significant challenge or obstacle that you faced in being a business owner?
Yeah, I think that for me, the biggest when I got into this business, I knew that I had a product or a service that was good. And I knew that there was a need out there. But I didn't think through the financing of how do you start this up, how do you grow this thing. It never occurred to me to go to people and raise money. A lot of people go out and raise money before they start. And I think that for me was really, that was a huge obstacle, because the growth of my business was limited by the financing of my business. So you can't put the cart before the horse. You've got to, if you want to hire people on, you have to have the cash in the bank to do it. And for me, I mean, I literally started the business with next to nothing. And I think that was a huge obstacle. And it wasn't until we really got up and running and that we became successful that I finally said, okay, we need to get financing in place. We need to put a line of credit in place. These are just things that, you know, I didn't think of. That would be an obstacle that became, wow, it's like I don't have this huge amount of money sitting in the bank that I'm going to just tap into and fund this venture. So that, I think that's the biggest challenge for us, or the obstacle that we had to come over, is how do you grow and control growth and financially afford the growth?
Well, and what you just said, there's two directions, two things that I wanted to ask you about, and I'm kind of deciding which way to go. And I think I'll stick with the money thing. You know, even after what you just said, your company has only been in 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
You became a $1 million company, and that is awesome and amazing. So in spite of those financial challenges, in spite of the limited finances, you were able to achieve just a monumental growth. So a question for me is, you know, if I'm a new entrepreneur and I'm thinking of starting a business, how do we were talking earlier before we got started about, you know, I thought, well, this is great, Startup Grind's for everyone. I mean, there's absolutely, but the reality of it is, there is a certain target population that it is absolutely, and making that, how would you say to someone that's starting a business, how do you go about finding that fit?
I think there are two things, okay? I think the answer, the business answer, is have that planned out in advance. Have a business plan, have a marketing plan, know who your target market is, and just go for it. But I think from a practical standpoint, I mean, when we first started, we accidentally got in with higher education. And then we accidentally went to corporations. And so I think it was trial and error. I mean, we went up a lot of different markets that we thought, oh, this is a good fit. And as we went into it, we realized it's really not that good a fit. And so we were able to switch course. There were some companies, there were some organizations that we wound up targeting that became clients. And then when we put the product in place and we sat managers around the table and we showed them the product, which they would never think of using, when we showed it to them, we said, be creative. How can you use this? They came up with some of the best ideas in terms of how to use the product that we had never even thought of.
So that speaks again to that persistence that you mentioned. To be an entrepreneur means being persistent.
Yeah.
And absolutely means being able to go through trial and error. Trying something, and if it doesn't work, then not being afraid to back out and try something else until you find it. I want to go back. That was the other piece of the story. I think you told me that when you were starting off in business, you said you came from a family of entrepreneurs. So there was a certain expectation for you. You went to college and you got out of college, and what happened after that?
Well, I actually decided I didn't want to go into the family business. I was expected to go into the family business, but didn't want to, and kind of rebelled. And I got on a plane with a backpack and a tent and went to Hawaii.
I love that story.
And so I started out literally living on the beach, and that, thinking it's a bed of roses, and really realizing, oh my gosh, I'm homeless, what am I going to do? And it just starting out like that, and then realizing, if I don't make money here and I don't do something good, I'm not going to eat. And so I think that was a reality check. And I knew that I couldn't go back because I had already walked away from the family business. So it was do or die.
So there was a certain level, it almost sounds, as I'm listening to you tell that story, that the entrepreneurship started before you actually had a business model to be able to just, so courageousness is really a part of being an entrepreneur.
Oh, absolutely.
So being willing to cut your bridges, and that was one of your first successes when you were sharing with me that you were in Hawaii, you didn't have resources, but you built yourself into one of your first successful businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that was just persistence. I was just persistent. I just, I knew that if I got in before everybody and I stayed later, my chances of being successful were greater. Work smarter, work harder, and I'll be successful. And that's what I came up with.
And those are some of the traits, it sounds like, is what it really takes. Again, similar things that I heard from Ed Benson last month. Those are some of those traits, courageousness, persistence, that help you being, not quitting. And I know that's one of the startup line values is you just don't quit. You just make it happen. And again, you are coming from a place about communication. Your business is designed, even though I know you have a specific product model, but the overall value is about helping businesses, organizations, I should say, communicate better.
Yeah, and for me, it's interesting because my passion in life is I love helping people. And so in anything I've ever done, it's always helping people. And when I kind of fell into this and started, I was really having a hard time of what's the connection? How am I really helping people? And what I came up with is I'm helping people to communicate. I love communication, and that to me is the key to everything. And so just my passion for helping people was just a natural tie-in. And then when we look at things and products to bring on, which we're always looking at things, it's always like, what's the bridge? What's the bridge to helping people? What is the underlying passion is helping people. The underlying, belief is communication bridges this. And how are we bridging both of those in what we're offering to clients or what we're potentially thinking of bringing on?
Thinking about your experience and your education, one of the questions that I hear sometimes is we read about many entrepreneurs who started school, dropped out, became wildly successful, or didn't do the schooling at all and were wildly successful. But you have a nice mix of experience and education. You talk about communication, but also psychology is your background. How have you found that to be helpful in those studies in being an entrepreneur, being your business?
Yeah, I went back for my I have an undergraduate in business, so that's that. But what happened was I wound up where I was actually managing brokers, and I was overseeing brokers. And I always wanted to get into their heads to figure out how to train them better. What's going on in their head to make them more successful, because I had a model that I used that brought me success, and I thought, well, if I can show by example and teach people and help them to have success. So I decided to go back to school for a master's in industrial organizational psychology, which is as boring as it sounds.
It's like, wow.
So I wound up going through one semester of coursework, and I said, oh my gosh, this is so boring, I'm not enjoying this. But I didn't want to waste the time that I had been in school, so I just automatically transferred into the marriage, family, and child counseling program, because all my credits would transfer, and wound up getting a master's in counseling, or master's in psychology. And what I found was that it's all about the psychology. What's going on in people's heads? Whether you're selling something, whether you're counseling them, whether you're communicating with them, it's what are they hearing, what are they processing that's going on in their mind that's actually motivating them to do something, behave in a certain way, purchase something, value something, use something. And so for me, that education opened up a whole new understanding of really what motivates people.
So again, it sounds like it's, again, speaking to what you're saying of getting to know them, helping as you understand their needs, then you're able to craft plans and products that are helping them to communicate to their particular audiences.
Correct.
And able to get that across.
Correct, because I really believe strongly in a win-win. It's got to be a win-win. I'm not selling you a product that you're going to be miserable with. It's got to be a win-win because to me it's a relationship. And whatever I'm doing, as long as it's helping you, it's going to help bring you up. And in the process, that'll bring us up. That'll bring me up. So it's got to be about a win-win.
So it's a partnership, it sounds like.
Yeah.
You know, I asked you what surprised you about being a business owner. What delights you that you just think about, but if you just smile, what is it that delights you about being a business owner?
The biggest thing I love about being a business owner is just seeing the positive impact I have on people. And that goes for my clients, and I smile because I think about my employees. And to me, it's the most gratifying thing to just build up other people and to see them succeed and to see opportunity. And I never ever expected that when I started this business. I thought I was going to be working alone with no other employees and just, putting my blinders on and going for it. And I have found the greatest joy in my business is between helping my customers and helping my employees.
Is there a certain level, when you're building your own business, is there a certain level of chaos that's kind of built into that? In terms of, it sounds as if you're kind of creating things as you're going, especially a business like yours. And it sounds as if it is, you have a flexibility to change, which is nice. It's a business model that allows you to change. How have you found that? Has there been a certain chaos in that? That's good. The variety of it. Do you enjoy that?
Well, I laugh when you ask me that question because I think by nature I'm someone who doesn't like change. Yet every day when you own your own business, it's chaos. It's an organized chaos, and so to have those values and to not do well with change, it's push and pull. But I think that in my own little way, I create an organizational structure because in the chaos, to me, the chaos is more opportunities. And by structuring it as opportunities, I look at, okay, here are all of my opportunities, and what am I going to pursue? What am I going to pursue? So it's organizing that chaos that actually I think drives me.
Now that brings me to another question, which is about, we chatted about this a little bit when we talked last week, is, being a woman entrepreneur. There are things that are different. From your peers, I'm sure, and also, and you answer this as you like, there's the family piece of it, because I know that you have a family. And so, have you found that being a woman entrepreneur, being a woman business owner, were there opportunities that you said, hey, I'm kind of having to do something that someone else, my male peer, is not having to deal with? Did you find that to be so?
Yes, sometimes. I think for women, it's much harder when it comes to interpersonal issues. We take it much more personally. When it comes to employee issues, we take it much more personally because we want everybody to feel good. It's like all about feeling good. It might be black and white on paper. It might be very clear what needs to be done on paper. But because I'm a nurturer, I want to make sure everybody's okay. And I think when I talk to my male counterparts, it's black and white for them. It's like, well, this is the right business decision. You just need to make that decision. And yes, it's a clear business decision, but what about the person that's involved? And I think that's, as a woman, that's...
The education question just for a moment. if you were going to give some advice to someone who's saying, you know, I can go to school, I have this opportunity to go to school, I really have this idea for a business. I'm not sure what to do. Should I go to school for a while and kind of get some grounding, or should I just go for it and live my dream? What advice would you give them?
Well, it's interesting. You said, should I go ahead and live my dream? And I'm always live your dream, because I think that living your dream takes you up roads that you never even thought existed. You know, the one thing I look back and I say, boy, if I were to go back to school today, I would be such a different student than I was 20 years ago, because I bring all of this experience with me and understanding with me. I think about back in my business days, in my business school days, you know, going through statistics classes and going through accounting classes, and I had the same response, and it was like, oh my gosh, I just got to go through this class just to get it out of the way. And I think if I were to go back now, it's like I just love learning about that stuff because it all makes sense. Now that I have the experience, it makes sense. So I think that if somebody is if they're comparing going back to school or starting a business, or going back to school and living their dream, I always say live your dream, because you never know where that path is going to take you, and I don't think you can go wrong doing that path. The other thing, and I say this to young people because I do mentor young people, you never make a wrong decision. You make decisions and you move forward. And
I like that.
It just is. And if it works out and it's successful, that's fantastic. But you know what? If it doesn't work out and you fail, that's okay too, because you've learned all these lessons, and you can always pick yourself up and move on to the next thing. It's not, the only way you fail is if you try. The only way you succeed is if you try. So success, there's a certain amount of failure that comes with success. So
as long as you don't quit.
Yeah,
You fail your way to success.
But the other thing is, there's a time where you have to say no, and you have to back off, and you have to say, you know what, I gave this my best shot, and it's just not meant to be. But the experience of giving it your best shot, it's the path that you've walked across that's giving you the experience and the learning.
And that's going to give you. You mentioned mentors, and I wanted to ask you, were there some real significant mentors, or even one, that you can really kind of look back and say, yep, you know what, this person really spoke some things or role modeled some things for me? Talk about that.
I think I've had a couple of really good mentors. You know, my first position right out of school, right off the beach, I had no sales experience at all. I had no experience on the phones, and he was a wonderful mentor to me and just taught me how to pick up the phone and make friends and just communicate with people. I think going off in later life, there have been a couple of mentors that have been invaluable, have given me invaluable wisdom that they've learned. I think as I'm getting older, I realize even the greater importance of having mentors and people that I can go to, because you're always learning. You're always learning, and there's always going to be situations that you need to talk to other people about.
Is that what led you to want to be a mentor yourself? Because you do a lot of mentoring.
I do a lot of mentoring. Yeah, I love mentoring. To me, we started a program 2 years ago, two and a half. Actually, it's going on 2.5 years ago, where I took students from the local college and women, brought them into my business, and used them as interns and taught them to basically put them through management training. They basically were with me, mirrored me, and were in on meetings and whatnot. And one of those women, as a matter of fact, has gone on and started a career, and she still keeps in touch with me, and I still mentor her. And to me, that's one of the joys of my job. I just love giving back to young people and then just seeing them blossom. There's countless reward, internal that I get out of that I value.
Kind of creating a circle.
Yeah.
What you have received, and you're kind of putting that back out there.
And it's ongoing. It's ongoing. I don't ever see myself giving up my mentors, and I don't ever see giving. Some people will say, well, you get to a certain age and then you become a mentor. Well, yeah, you become a mentor, but you have to keep your mentors, because you always have to have both give and take on both sides.
So there's always something new that's coming in. Your company is national at this point. Is it international?
Well, actually, our client, I had to stop with that because this past year, our clients are all based in the United States, but we do have some clients that have employees that are international.
That was my question. What's next? Is an international scope something that you're interested in for BroadBlast or any of your other endeavors?
I don't think, for BroadBlast, I don't think it is that important to BroadBlast. You know, we will take on clients that are based here in the United States that have employees outside of the United States. I love to travel. That's one of my passions in life. I love to travel. So if an opportunity, say what's next, if an opportunity came up where I could travel and change the world, I would absolutely be all ears for that. So yeah, but I don't think taking BroadBlast where BroadBlast is and moving that international, that's not the right move for us.
Okay. If you were going to speak to an entrepreneur, someone that's watching the video, someone that's listening, and again, that question about, I want to be an entrepreneur, what would you suggest? Would you suggest maybe trying to get a mentor, or maybe starting off, like I know you said to start with the beginning with the business plan, or so really kind of get that idea, and then, you know, if I just walk up to you and said, you know, I see that you're doing fantastic things, you've got a great business, you've got a blossoming business, your business is growing, you're impacting a lot of different people. What should I do? Would you say, start with get that firm kernel of what your business should be?
Well, first of all, from a couple of different standpoints, if I was the person thinking of starting up a business, I would go to as many people as I respected that are entrepreneurs and that are successful, and get nuggets from them. And when I say get nuggets from them, their experience, you know, whatever they've gone through, it's their experience that can help. And that's one of the things in mentoring, is when you're mentoring, you're hoping you can, you know, rather than somebody doing a zigzag line, they're going to make more of a straight line, so that the mistakes that you made, maybe they don't make. And I think if you talk to enough successful people, you can get a feeling for that, which could cut down your time. I think if you have a great idea, it never hurts to run it by people that you respect, that have brought great ideas and brought them into a business or into fruition. You know, I've met plenty of people that have wonderful ideas, but nobody's going to buy it. It's so illogical. It sounds like a feel-good idea, but it doesn't make any sense. If you really look at it and say, okay, what is the chances of this being successful? That being said, if somebody has a dream and a passion, I'm like, go for it, because the way you think is different than the way I think, and you know, there could be a huge opportunity in it.
To get that idea out there, another thing I heard someone say, and I don't remember, it's one of those, you don't know if it's a famous saying or if unknown said it or anonymous said it, but that how many ideas there are in the graveyard, where people just didn't take the opportunity to live, to kind of, to live that dream, to get it out there. So get it out there.
Yeah.
But do it wisely by trying to find some folks that you know, and just really asking some questions. You know, in our area, we've got a lot of things going on for entrepreneurs. There are a lot of options that people have. You know, just different, RPI, the different universities are getting very involved in entrepreneurship. So it seems like it's a good season and a good time for folks that are interested in starting their own business. Have you found, as you kind of did your research, I know you said BroadBlast, if I understand it, kind of that was an opportunity that kind of came to you. But do you see any trends in terms of businesses that people seem to be moving into as on an entrepreneurial that you're hearing about?
I hear a lot of different people trying a lot of things. Whether they're successful is a whole other thing. You know, the failure rate is huge when you're starting up a business. It's not easy to start a business. Have I seen any trends? And I'm going back on a comment that you made a little bit earlier. I don't think that we have a lot of very successful entrepreneurs in the area. I don't think that there are many that you can approach if you want to. I mean, an entrepreneur understands the bumps and the bruises. And so if I had somebody coming to me and asking for advice, help, assistance, I'm going to give them the time of day to listen to them. So I think that there's a lot of support in this area, as long as you come with a good idea. I mean, just don't try to waste my time.
Sure. Sure.
But I think there are a lot of people out there that are willing to help and support and assist and, give direction. Is there a particular trend of a specific area? I've heard of ideas. I get people calling me all the time. I have an idea I want to run by you. I have a product. It's a great product for you to sell. And I look at a lot of things, but it's...
If it doesn't fit your model, your particular model.
Yeah, you have to step back from it.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you. I want to open it up just for some questions to see if anyone has any questions about what you've heard today or about being an entrepreneur. So I just want to open it up.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
What would you say about the barriers or the challenges to growth? You mentioned that you're about $1 million a year. What's that? $1 million a year revenue now. What would you say your biggest challenges are to becoming bigger?
That's an excellent question. When I think of growing, and the biggest challenge is the financing of it. Because in our business, it's you finance it first, and then so that's risk. That's risk that I take on as an employer. I would think that is the biggest issue that we have in terms of growth.
We have Natalie that came to support you. So everyone that's here, we just want to say thank you for coming. I have an amazing community manager, Ed Harris, and one of the best photographers in the world, Justin Tibbetts. So just thank everyone for coming. Thank you for joining us for the second edition of Startup Grind Albany. Stay tuned, there's more to come.